In this video, I'm going to teach you how to code qualitative interview data using NVivo 14. NVivo 14 is the latest version of NVivo, which is a popular qualitative data analysis software. We're going to go from regular interview transcripts like this to a full qualitative data analysis report like this. We are going to follow 8 main steps of coding qualitative data, including Step 1. Creating folders in NVivo 14. Step 2. Importing interview transcripts into NVivo 14. Step 3. Skimming through interview transcripts. Step 4. Coming up with primary themes. Step 5. Categorizing each code under a primary theme. Step 6. Exporting a hierarchy chart. Step 7. Exporting a code book. And Step 8. Developing a results report. In this video, I'm going to use interview data obtained by a graduate student who was researching digestive disorders. The 2 main research questions that will be considered during this coding process will include: number 1, what are the experiences of people with digestive disorders? And number 2, how do people with digestive disorders cope with them? So let's look at how to analyze qualitative data using NVivo 14. So the first thing you'll notice when you open NVivo 14 is that there is a section for recent projects, this section, and a section for new projects. So we click on the section for new projects, and let's call this digestive disorders project. And then we'll click on this button, create project. NVivo is currently creating the project, and this is how a new project looks like in NVivo 14. We have the data area, which has files, file classifications, and externals. We have the coding area, which has codes, sentiment, relationships, and relationship types. We have cases, notes, queries, visualization, reports, and all these sections. The main areas that we are going to use is the data and the coding section. So the first thing we do is create a folder. So we click on the files section, we right click on the file section, and we click on the new folder. Let's call this interview transcripts. And there we have our new folder, interview transcripts. It's important to create different forms of files on your data section in NVivo 14 because you can have interview transcripts, you can have videos, you can have audio files. And with all these different types of data, you're going to classify each of them or to categorize each of them on its own folder so that you can follow up as you go on with your study. So interview transcripts. The next thing I'll do is to import the interview transcripts. To import data on NVivo 14, you simply click on the folder where the data is, then you drag and drop it on NVivo. So I'll drag them and drop them on the folder we just created, the folder we labeled as interview transcripts. And there you have it. We have our 2 interviews here. We have interview transcripts, digestive disorders, SAM. This is our first interview. And we double click on the interview. It will open on the right hand side. The next interview is interview transcripts, digestive disorders, Brenda. So the interviewee was called Brenda and the first interviewee was called Sam. Now we have imported our interview transcripts. The third step in conducting qualitative analysis is to skim through the interviews. So we are going to skim through the interview to have a rough idea or to understand the context of the interviews. I've already done this, so I won't take a lot of time here. So you skim through the interviews to understand the basic context of the interviews. After skimming the interviews, you are ready to go to the 4th step of qualitative data analysis, which is coming up with primary themes. Now, it's important to use what we call the hierarchical method of coding, where you have a primary theme and then the sub-themes under it. We want to determine the primary themes that we will use to code our data. In this case, the primary themes are evident because we have research questions that we want to focus on. So the research questions that you want to answer in your study will form the primary themes when coding the qualitative data in NVivo 14. So in this case, the 2 main research questions that will be considered in the coding process include: what are the experiences of people with digestive disorders? And the second question is, how do people with digestive disorders cope with them. So the first primary theme that is evident is experiences of people with digestive disorders. That's a primary theme. So we are going to insert this as a code, or we are going to create new code or a primary theme, and let's call this experiences of people with digestive disorders, and then click OK. Then right click, create new code, and we have the second primary theme, which is how do people with digestive disorders cope with them? Coping strategies of people with digestive disorders. Now, these are the two primary themes or the two primary codes that we are going to use to analyze our interview transcripts. So all the other codes that we will have in our interview transcripts will go to either coping strategies of people with digestive disorders or experiences of people with digestive disorders. It's important to have primary themes or primary codes that come from your research questions so that you can understand or you can have a clear idea of what you are looking for in the interview transcripts as you conduct your qualitative data analysis. Let's analyze the first transcripts, which is Brenda here. This interviewee starts the interview with the statement, bowel disorders, it's what it is. So here we can create a code. We just highlight the code that you want to create. So bowel disorders, it's what it is. Is this a coping strategy or an experience? Here we can see that we can categorize this as a coping strategy. So what I'll do is I'll highlight this code, then I'll drag and drop it on the codes section. Drag here to code, and then I'll call this bowel disorders, it's what it is. We can call this acceptance, because in this case, the interviewee appears to have accepted her condition. Now, we've said acceptance is under coping strategies of individuals with digestive disorders. So I'll drag this code and drop it under coping strategies. And if we were to click the plus sign here, you can see acceptance as a code is under the primary theme or the primary code of coping strategies of people with digestive disorders. So acceptance is right under that. We can continue reading the interview transcripts. How old were you when you first started to realize you were having problems with your digestion? I was 21 and a half to be exact here. Interviewer: do you suffer from celiac, or how would you define your discomfort? Brenda: my colonoscopy says no celiac and not inflammatory bowel disease. My blood marker test says I have inflammatory bowel disease. I would label myself definitely gluten intolerant. Interviewee: and for the record, can you describe what that means? Gluten intolerance as you would describe it. Gluten intolerance means your body just does not digest or break down or really absorb gluten, and that is a protein that is found in wheat. I would also say I don't handle processed meat well either. The symptoms are across the board. For me personally, I'll get joint pains, exhaustion. I just feel incredibly full after 4 or 5 bites. If I'm having, say, pasta or something where it's just after 4 or 5 bites, I can't eat anymore. I feel nauseous. That's actually where the symptoms really first started. You can see in this section here, there's what we can call these debilitating symptoms. Debilitating symptoms fall under experiences. This is not a coping strategy of people with digestive disorder. We can see this falls under experiences of people with digestive disorder. We click on that code, we drag it, and we drop it under experiences of people with digestive disorders. If we have a coping strategy, we find a coping strategy on the data, we classify it on the coping strategy primary theme. If we find an experience, we classify it under experiences of people with digestive disorder. We can see the interview continues. The interviewer asks, was there anything else beyond that, say migraine, headaches, or... Then Brenda says, headaches I have, and it's gotten a lot better. I had pretty bad hormonal acne, it is what they would call it. Went across the board trying to treat it. I tried creams and antibiotics, retin, as all that stuff. When I started to cut on gluten and wheats, my skin cleared up the best it's ever been. I even went on Accutane, and I was on Accutane for 5 months, that is exactly when my symptoms would appear. I've been completely healthy my entire life. So again, we can see that statement represents what we would call experiences of people with digestive disorders. That is acne, that's an experience and a symptom. So we can drag this section and also drop it on the code of dilapidating symptoms. So to code data in NVivo 14, you highlight the data by left clicking on your mouse, then you drag it and drop it on the codes that you've already created. If you are creating a new code and you highlight a section, you need to drag it down here and then you create a new code. So that's how you code using NVivo 14. I'm going to go through this interview and come up with the different codes, or come up with the different evident codes that are available. Remember, we said our primary themes are coping strategies and experiences of people with digestive disorders. I'm also going to go to the second interview with Sam and also try to code different coping strategies and experiences of people with digestive disorders. As we go on with the tutorial, I have recently begun offering transcription and qualitative data analysis services. Since this is a new service, I have an offer running this week. If you need help transcribing and analyzing data for your qualitative study, click the link in the description and talk to me via Messenger. I'm giving away a free service for the first 5 people to click the link and ask for help. Thank you, and let's get back to the video. I want to show how I've coded. You can see I have already coded these interviews. I have coded all the sections with the different codes that you can observe on the right. And if you come to the codes section of NVivo, you can see I have developed different codes under the primary themes. We have the first primary theme is coping strategies of people with digestive disorders. I have a main theme and sub-themes, as you can see. For coping strategies, we have different sub-themes or codes including acceptance, avoiding generalized condition labels, dealing with emotional origins of disease, eating healthy, exercising, maintaining good mental health, resisting pressure, support from family. So those are coping strategies. Again, experiences of people with digestive disorder, we have damaging symptoms, dietary challenges, difficulty getting the right diagnosis, emotional challenges, lack of support from friends, lack of support from insurance companies, restricted social life, severe side effects from drugs, and worrying about what to eat. So these are the different sub-themes or sub-codes that are from the main or the primary themes, which came from our research questions. Remember, we got our primary themes from our research questions. Now, we have already coded our interview transcripts. What's the next step, or how do we proceed to compile a results section of either your research paper, thesis, or dissertation? The first thing we are going to do is to visualize the results. So I'm going to right click one of the themes, which is coping strategies of people with digestive disorders, and come down here, visualize, then click on something we call hierarchy chart of codes. You can see the codes that appear most related to coping strategies of people with digestive disorders include avoiding generalized condition labels, eating healthy, exercising, and acceptance. Those are the 4 main codes that are dominant when it comes to coping strategies of people with digestive disorders. Now, when writing my report, I can only include the 4 main codes in my report. So we can right click on this and export this as a PNG or a diagram, and we can call these coping strategies. We can also export this as a pie chart. Let's click on it, and you can see avoiding generalized condition, eating healthy, exercising are the 3 main themes. Again, we can export this as a pie chart, and exporting these sections of the pie chart, the bigger the section of the pie chart means the higher the frequency of the code in the data that we analyzed. For example, avoiding generalized condition labels appears in both interview transcripts more than acceptance. That's why avoiding generalized condition labels is larger. It's important to use the hierarchy chart to determine the themes to include in your results and analysis and the themes not to include. Obviously, we are going to include the themes that appear more or that have a higher frequency, such as avoiding generalized condition labels, eating healthy, and exercising, and also acceptance. And maybe we are going to ignore themes such as support from family, resisting peer pressure, and maintaining good mental health. Again, you can export this hierarchy chart as a PNG and you can use it in your report, as we are going to see. Generally, that's how you create a hierarchy chart from NVivo 14. You right click on the theme, the main theme, and then you go to hierarchy chart of codes, and then you can have the different codes depending on their frequency of appearance. Another thing that you can export after you complete coding your data in NVivo 14 is something we call the code book. It's important that you describe each code. Take, for example, the primary theme here or the primary code, and we click on the code properties. You will see I have created a clear description of my code, which is coping strategies of people with digestive disorders. These are strategies used by individuals with digestive disorders to cope with their condition. So this description will appear on my code book, as you are going to see. Make sure you create very clear descriptions of every code that you have. Every code, right click on it, go to code properties, and create a clear description. You can also see here acceptance, defense mechanisms used by individuals with digestive disorders to cope with their condition. That's a clear description. These descriptions will appear in our code book. Let's go to share. We click on the share icon and go to export and export code book. We want to export a code book. You can see that NVivo produces a very detailed code book with the primary themes here. You can put this in bold. These are the primary themes and the sub themes under them, and also a description of what every code means or every sub-theme means. So, for example, acceptance, defense mechanisms used by individuals with digestive disorders to cope with their condition. The code book is a very important resource for writing your analysis, the discussion section of your thesis, research paper, or dissertation. You can use the code book for that purpose. I'm going to attach this code book on the appendix section of the final results report that I will generate from NVivo 14. After you've coded in NVivo 14, developed hierarchy charts, and exported a code book, the next step will be to create what we call a final results section of either your research paper, your dissertation, or thesis. This is the results report that I created after conducting the qualitative data analysis of the data related to individuals with digestive disorders. So you can see I have the primary theme of experiences of people with digestive disorders. You can see the hierarchy chart that I exported, including damaging symptoms, dietary changes, emotional challenges. The codes that feature more on the hierarchy chart are the ones that I'm going to include in my results section. Again, you have to note that when you are writing your results section of your research paper, thesis, or dissertation after conducting a qualitative data analysis with NVivo 14, you have to first describe what the code you have assigned means. For example, in damaging symptoms, I've described damaging symptoms was a prevalent theme among the interviewed individuals with digestive disorders. The damaging symptoms among individuals with digestive disorders will include chronic fatigue. And then we have the raw data here. We have this section or this excerpt from a statement that Sam said. Sam was one of the interviewees. We have another here, which is from the interview transcript with Sam. And we have another here, which is from the interview transcript with Brenda. It's important to include the raw data from the interview transcripts in the results section of your research paper, master's thesis, or dissertation when conducting qualitative analysis, because such data is used to support the codes that you assign to specific issues. The results section will have the excerpts that you get from the interview transcripts. The only section that does not have the excerpts from the raw data is the discussion section. So you can see from my results section here, I also have dietary challenges as a theme or code. I also have lack of support from friends and restricted social life, severe side effects from drugs. Remember, those are experiences of people with digestive disorders. On the other hand, coping strategies of people with digestive disorders. I have a hierarchy table here. You can see my hierarchy table. Avoiding generalized condition labels, eating healthy, and exercising are the three main themes from the hierarchy table, and we have them here discussed in the results section. We have all of them, including exercising. Finally, in my appendix, you can see I have the code book, and we have every code, the primary code or the primary theme, and the sub-themes or the different subcodes for every primary theme, and a clear description. The code book is important to write the next section, which would be the discussion section of the different themes that I found when conducting qualitative data analysis in NVivo 14. So the code book is very important in describing what different codes or different themes mean and coming up with the final discussion section. So this is how the final results section will look after you conduct qualitative data analysis in NVivo 14. I'm going to attach the link to these final results. That's how you code qualitative interview data using NVivo. If you need help transcribing and analyzing your interview data, click the link in the description and talk to me via Messenger. I promise to help the first 5 people to click the link with transcription and data analysis for free.